Hello everybody, this is going to be a quick demo where I'm going to build this scene down here with 4 snow dudes, and let's just dig in and start programming in Racket. So to start off, let's just do something where let's draw a circle. So I'm going to call this circle, I'm going to just draw it, and it's going to be a circle, and let's say it's of 100 radius, and it's going to be an outline circle, and it's going to be blue. If I run this program, see how it draws it. Now, one of the things first thing I want to point out is if you highlight over it, a particular word, it'll show you where it comes from. This comes from the image library. The other thing is if you click on it, this up in the top right, there's this sort of like subtle little arrow over here, and that'll show you all of the functions of whatever you're on. So you can also click read more. I'll take you to the documentation of that. The local documentation, but there's all sorts of information on all sorts of things. We're going to use isosceles triangle here in a second, but you can always find out stuff about it, whatever your current circle is on, or your current, whatever your cursor is on, you can find out about it up here. Okay, so for example, in this case, I'm going to do use above, and we're going to do a circle that's 100 on top of something that's 80, it's on top of something that's 60. And I like to put in new lines. It helps me to see things. So if I do it this way, and I quickly run this, you're going to see that it's upside down. So I kind of want to do the opposite. So 60, 80, and 100. Good. Now what I'm going to do, what I want to do is let's start defining some functions. So I want to make a function to draw a snowball, just so I can get out of, maybe I want to change the look of this, the color thing later. I want to do a whole bunch of things. And I'm going to take a parameter radius. And that's going to look a lot like this guy right here for now, except that instead of being 60, I'm going to do radius. If I run that, it produces the same thing because I'm not even calling it, but let's say I just say snowball of 60. And nicely, one of the things I do a fair amount is I'll like just bimp and let the highlighting show that I've got everything closed. And when you write more and more complicated things, it helps a great deal for that. What I'm going to do next is let's actually just write a function that's going to start to draw my snow dude here. And that's going to take some base radius. So this would be like the radius of the bottom circle, if you will, and everything else will be based on that. So we do this, and now I call snow dude of 100. It won't matter what I'm doing because I've got this guy in here, but like I run this, see that it works. And what I kind of want to do here is instead of doing whatever my hard-coded values, let's start multiplying. Well, first of all, this will be base radius, the bottom one, so the base of my snow dude. And these guys are going to be times 0.8 of base radius. And it takes a little while to get used to, but trust me, you'll get it. Like, I'm sure at least some of you are going to do this, right? 0.6 times base radius. And if I try to run this guy, it's of course not going to work. It's going to show me this error right here, where it tells me where it is. You can actually see the full stack trace. We'll have a video that shows how to use these two things, but this tells you where it is. Everything is calling a function. So let's call the multiply function here with these two values. Another guy. And now I can do something like say, all right, let's make it 60 big. And you know, I can see it all on the screen nicely there. All right, so that's the beginnings of our snowman. let's say that we wanted to add quick sticks to the side of this. Let's write another function, just define, and I want to change the appearance later. Let's call it a stick, and the length of the stick. And this is going to be a rectangle. And if I wanted to find out about what the parameters are for that guy, again, I can click on that, go to this top right and see its width, height, mode, and negative. Well, what is mode? All right, well, let me start to read in on this. And so mode can be solid or outline. Okay, I got it. And color is a number of different colors that they show you. So let's go ahead and close that. So it's going to be width. So the stick length is going to be the width. And let's just say that the height is 0.1 times 0.1 times the length. We're going to make this solid and brown. And now on this middle snowball, I'm going to do beside. Right? And it'll be beside, I'll do a stick that is now, if I just do base radius, that would be, sort of half of this distance. See how that looks. Stick of the base radius, another stick of the base radius, close that up. We can always come back up here and see that that is right. We're feeling good there. Let's see how this looks. Oh, and now I have this error because I have one too many. Stick radius. Oh, there you go. So that actually doesn't look too bad. You can imagine like turning them and having them come here, but let's say that that's good enough for right now. So that is sort of the beside, above, and again, like anytime you want to find out about something, you can go up here and find out about it. One last thing I'm going to do here before we move on to the hat is going to be, I'm going to draw just a carrot on his face. You can imagine drawing all the coal for his eyes and his mouth, but let's just put the carrot on there. So what we're going to do here is on this top one, instead of like beside thing, I want to overlay two things. And there's a bunch of different versions of overlay, but the just base one, I put one on top of the other, is going to be, we're going to overlay the snowball with some isosceles triangle. You could do almost anything. I'm going to do the isosceles triangle and risk misspelling it, but isosceles triangle. And let me see if I do this and I just click on it, if it'll tell me at the top what it is. Yeah, it does. So side length, angle, mode, and color. So this one is, we're going to do, like 0 times 0.4 base radius. And then 330 degrees is going to point it straight down, and solid. And you notice I put it in common. You don't have to. Matter of fact, you can't. So don't try to break yourself of that. Close up the overlay. That's still all good. Let's see how this looks. There we go. We're going to call that good enough. You can imagine sliding it down a little. And now let's put the hat on this guy. So I'm going to write a little function, define hat, and I'm going to have it take the brim width. And this is going to be, again, an above. I'm going to put the base of it above top one. So this is going to be, I'm just going to do two simple rectangles. So rectangle, and I can look up what that is again. It's width and height. So I'm going to do the top one to be, let's say 0.6. Oh, sorry, times 0.6 brim width. And then the height is going to be times, let's just say 0.4 times the brim width. Okay, and then the color, let's just say, oh, excuse me, the next one is solid, and call it black. Okay. The bottom one is going to be, of course, brim width, because I literally pass it in to be that way. And let's just say like 0.2 times the brim width to the top guy. How's that look? And that's going to be our hat. Now, what I can do really quickly is throw in a hat and brim width. Let's make it base radius right now. This is not going to be quite right, but let's see what it looks like. A little small. I might want to make it a little bit bigger because, you know, like half the thing is not quite right. So let's make it like 1 point times 1.4 for the base radius. And that looks good. It's a little bit off of his head. I think in my original picture, I had it down a little bit. So what I'm going to say, just use this as an example of it. Like, let's say I wanted to move it down a little. This Racket's image library is fantastic for doing things like Sierpinski's triangle, where things exactly line up where you want them to line up. When you want to overlay them a little, it has support for that. It sometimes can be a little bit of a pain. So the first thing I'm going to do is just pull this hat out and do a double above. So I'm going to pull the hat out and just show that it's it's the same picture, if you will. So I do this. I've got a hat above a snowman, which is the same thing as just sort of throwing it in here. Now what I'm going to do instead of this is I'm going to do overlay, align, offset. Okay. And this takes a bunch of parameters. Let's look at them real quick. Right? It takes an X place, a Y place, the first image, and then X and Y for the actual offset, and then the second image. So the first image is going to be the hat. The second image is going to be this whole above thing here. Okay. So let's actually look at this documentation, because what was that X place, Y place situation? So let's look at this a little bit more. And what is X place? So that's like left, right, middle. Y place is right above it. That's going to be top, bottom, there's baseline. And so let's sort of go back here and show off that if I, so the first two parameters are going to be like, all right, so what's its X place? That's going to be middle and then top. And let's just make these next two parameters 0 for right now. If I run this, you can see that they're overlaid, aligned in the middle and at the top. So its top, the two tops are aligned. So I have to like pull some amount of this back off. And so what I'm going to do is align them, like, let's do like 0.7, oops, I'm going to multiply, times base radius here. Oh, and I did it, I did the double times here. Right. So this is like where it goes. This is its X and its Y. And now I'll sort of pull it up a little bit. These things can come in handy when you're trying to draw particular pictures or whatever. And so there's a lot of different variations for this. All right, so the last thing that I'm going to want to do here is just draw a bunch, 4 of these guys. So again, I'm going to do beside. I'm going to draw a snow dude that's that big. Let's draw 4 of them. And we'll do one that is 30, 20, and let's say 64. Very nice. We haven't had a power of 2 in here. Let's run it. And now we can see we just have our little snow family. Oh, but you can see it's sort of all these things aligned on their center. I kind of like this. They're all kind of holding hands, but sort of resting up. They're sort of like off the ground, let's say. So it also could be a scene where they're in different distance. But let's do beside a line. Like I said, there's a lot of different variations on this. And let's align their bottoms. And there you go. And that is how to draw a scene in with Racket's image library.